there's like a strange villainizing as well of managers. Yeah. But I'm like, it takes a certain level of bravery and audacity.
Oh, for sure.
Sacrifice to be like, I'm going to put my life on hold to see this dream through and adopt this dream as one of my own and have the whole team's dream be wrapped up in this. And like, you're responsible for all the plays. No one knows how anxiety inducing and fear inducing that is. And that's if it works.
I think one of the most exciting things for all of us managers was to watch you on that stage at the Grammys when Victoria Monet, your artist that you manage. I can't even say you met. It's like a partnership, you know. She turns around, gives you your flowers. For every manager watching now, like that's the dopest moment.
Yeah.
Because we know it's a thankless job.
It's a thankless job.
How did that feel for you?
Surreal. Even now it feels like, did that happen? Like when you're saying, I'm like, did that happen? Yeah, it was a dream. Because honestly, even her like bringing me up on the stage, I had no intention of going on the stage.
Okay.
There's no way. And I'm like, I'm not just gonna walk up on the stage. And she had like said that at the table of like, you know, if we win, like I'm bringing you up. I'm like, okay. Like, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they had the cameras come around, and by the time we arrived at the Grammys, we had won something. Because
also you're riding high.
But like it feels surreal because you've won, but you don't have the moment of like seeing her go on the stage, hearing the announcement. It was in the pre-top. Yes, it was R&B album. Or best engineered album was first.
Okay.
Non-classical. And we win that. And we're in the Sprinter on the way there. And it's pouring rain. So there's traffic and all types of chaos. And we win that. And then I believe we won R&B album on the carpet, perhaps.
Oh, wow.
On the carpet or like right before we got there, and we were like, what is happening right now? And she's got Hazel and it's pure chaos. So like all of this, like there's no time for it to set in because she's in, Dana, our publicist, is on with us.
Shout out Dana.
Her partner at the time, John, is there with Hazel, like holding her, trying to like let Victoria have these interviews. But, you know, it was pure insanity. And anyway.
So she's talking to camera. She's doing the red carpet interviews.
We're doing red carpet.
You find out while she's doing that she just won Best R&B Album?
I think they told us on the carpet.
And so are you like?
I'm just like, what is happening right now? First of all, the nominations alone.
Yeah.
Did not expect.
Well, we'll talk about that.
Did not expect.
Yeah.
But anyway, like when we're in the ceremony, we're sitting at the table and they keep going through the categories and none of them are ours except for like we get to Best New Artist or Best R&B Song gets announced first and SZA goes up and gets her award and we're like, duh.
Yeah.
Duh. And then Best New Artist. And they send all of the cameras to literally be on standby in front of the table. And I put my jacket back on and we're looking at each other like, oh shit, like, okay, like hopefully. And I think that was the moment for both of us where it's like, man, you got to keep a smile on because the camera's on you no matter what happens.
Right.
And two, I think that's the moment that it really set in of like how badly we wanted it. Because when you're the underdog for so long, you're almost like putting up the armor of like, okay, like hopefully, but if it doesn't happen, then like we'll just keep going. And like, so used to having that feeling for years.
Right.
So that was the moment where I'm like, shit, but wouldn't it be amazing if it was us this time? If like we actually have this moment this time? And when her name gets called, man, like just the first
goosebumps.
The first syllable of like Victoria. I was like, what? in the world?
Yeah.
What in the world?
Heart stops.
Heart stops. She like grabs me. We're going up, and I'm just like, oh my god, like just trying to sink it in. Even watching the footage back, I'm just like cheesing on the
super
stage.
Hard. Of course.
And I'm looking out, and I'm not even clocking half of the things that are happening because I'm like, are we on the stage right now?
Yeah.
At the Grammys, and we just won Best New Artist. Like, no genre, just Best New Artist. And thinking about everything it took to get there is just.
And think of like all the people, all the artists prior who were Best New Artists from, so many different genres. It's incredible company.
It's insane. It's really nuts. It's really nuts.
So she says that Victoria says that there's a binder. Yes. Picked up.
Yeah.
It said that there was something in there that made you want to work with her. Yeah. What was in the binder?
She had, so it said Victoria, I still have it. It's funny because I was just looking at it this week. You should, it says Victoria Monet on the front. And then on the inside, it had like her promo photo. Then it said short-term goals, long-term goals, the team I have, what I need, what are my weaknesses. Wow. Like she like went through line by line of like, she thought about it. Yeah. And for me at the time that I was at of finding it, it was a sign of someone that was willing to do the work. And it's really easy to, like strap the bag to your back and be like, all right, cool. Like we're in this together if that person's willing to work. Right. It's more than that though. I think the binder was just like the icing on the cake of wanting to work with her. Yeah. But I had already heard her in the artist capacity on a song with Lucky Day called Little More Time. Yeah. And that was one that I put into Insecure with Cheer. Right. Yeah. And that moment was like, holy shit, who is this? First of all, like she sounds like Janet, feels like a Marvin Gaye song. D-Miles involved. I'm like, this is a family affair. Yeah. And from that moment, I'm like, she's dope. I meet her on the set of Roll Some for Lucky. And I just thought she was cool. But there was no like, we didn't talk about artistry. It was none of that. We exchanged numbers afterwards. I think she went away for like a writing camp or something like that. Yep. Thank You Next and Seven Rings had already happened. I'd reached out to her prior and said like, hey, like I'd love to meet up, but she wasn't in town. Okay. Something like that happened. And then, it was interesting because when I hit her and we finally like sat down, I'd found the binder. I'd gone through YouTube. That was really like the nail in the coffin for me. Have the binder. Then I'm like, all right, let me find out about this Victoria Monet. Let me like go online and like, let's see. And I spent hours on YouTube just like running it back. I'm like, okay, like this video, like little interviews, different things. I can see that she can dance. I see Jaquel Knight's her creative director. I'm like, oh, she's also going after the best people. Which Jaquel was Beyonce's choreographer, but was creator directing her videos. Yeah. So I'm like, hold on a second. Like she can dance. And what's happening here that she's not an artist? Right. And so I text her and we agree to meet up at Takaya. Okay. Which is like this, this Mexican restaurant chain, like not even really chain. And I'm sitting there and I have like all of these ideas and all of these plans. I'm like, bring the binder. I'm excited. You brought the binder? I'm pretty sure I brought the binder. Fire. I'm pretty sure I brought the binder. And 5 minutes goes by, 10 minutes goes by, 15 minutes goes by. I text her. I'm like, hey, like everything good? She's like, yeah, I'm so sorry I'm running late. 10 minutes passes. She's like, I'm here. I don't see you. She goes to the wrong location. Oh, okay. And so, it's a chain. Because it's a chain. And we still laugh about it to this day because it's like, you stood me up, man. I was so excited. Oh, wait, so she ended up pulling up to where you were at or you? She did. She did. Okay. She came to that one. Okay. So we are sitting there. We talk through. She's like, telling me about herself, telling me about the artistry. Actually, no, she didn't pull up to that one. We met up a different day and I went to the one that she had gone to, was West Hollywood. Okay. A different day. Yeah. And that's where she had told me she was only wearing brown at this time. That was her thing. She's like, I only wear brown. That's my era. That's my brand. Okay. And I feel like live music's coming back. So she was like, live instrumentation is big for me. I love 70s music, but I want to do music that's influenced by the 70s, but not retro and like corny. But it should sound like futuristic. She was just trying to describe it, but didn't know what the sound was yet. And I sit there, I start to hear her story. She's like, I was signed at Our Child. I was in a girl group. She always has been an artist.
Yeah.
And it's funny because there's even a misconception now of like, oh, she was a songwriter and then she became an artist.
That's how most
people know her. Yeah, because you like cling to the thing that was the most popular thing, right? And for her, it was a songwriting success first. So of course the general public would say like, oh, she was a songwriter and then she became an artist. But to her credit, she's like, I was signed as an artist in this girl group. And then it's not easy for artists once you get dropped from that situation, trying to find another record deal.
Yeah.
Don't really have a team, don't really have an identity and brand. That's a hard thing to build in and of itself.
Yeah, especially because you were in a girl group, because that's a bunch of different ideas mismatched. Like a lot of it, it's not going to be your idea of like how you want to roll out as an artist.
Yeah.
And then the reality is like when you get dropped from a label and it doesn't work, it's like damaged goods.
Yeah.
For a lot
100%.
For a lot of executives.
For 100%.
Yeah.
Which is funny. Look at how tables have turned across the board. You got like Victoria, you got Chapel Roan. Like that's same story.
That's a fact.
But yeah, so she had dropped 4 projects at the time that I met her. 2 different parts to each project. Yeah. She'd gotten dropped from Atlantic after begging to be dropped. The projects went through Empire. Still doesn't have a team. There's no real promo. There's no real playlisting.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm like, dang, it's almost like this didn't happen. In my head of like, if you don't have a team to really support and put the music in the right places for people to discover it, it could be all this amazing music, but you're dropping at a time when there's like, 100,000 songs a day on the internet.
Yeah.
So when I met with her that first time and I'm hearing her story, I'm like, she's got the it thing. Like I could tell, I'm like, okay, this isn't just a songwriter because there's charisma, there's personality. She's got if you walk in a room, you want to know who this person is. Yeah. That's like the first step. Like, okay, you already know, like, I only wear brown. Cool. Love that. You keep that branding. Yeah. You know kind of what the sonic palette is, but not quite sure, but you have something to start from. And so we did a couple more meetings. And one of my questions was, well, you want this music to sound like this, who do you want to work with? And have you ever worked with someone and actually dedicated that time to yourself? And she said, no. So imagine how long this person has been working as an incredible songwriting career, but she's never had the time to say, hey, I want all these people to come together for me. And let's make this project with me as the artist instead of taking songs from sessions that she wrote for somebody else or you were just writing and then, you know, here and there, like here's a song and then trying to put a project together and it's not cohesive that way.
Right.
So that was the first question I asked. And D-Mile had been signed at the same time to Darkchild. So that was like an obvious, we had just gotten the Lucky Day project in Painted, which incredible. Transitions, everything, executive producing that. And I'm like, well, you've known him for over a decade, over 15 years at this point. That would be the person to do it with. Has he ever done it? And she's like, no, like we've never actually taken the time for me. And I'm like, well, R&B greatness, you guys should do that. This makes sense.
This sounds like it makes sense.
This sounds like it makes sense. So,
but she's so close to it that she's probably there's so much she's trying to process and figure out that you can't.
Also, like she didn't want to take. She knew how hard it was for him and for other producers of like, I'm trying to get this placement. So if there's no money in it, she didn't feel comfortable saying like, spend all this time working on me and I don't have the label or I don't have
all this what if.
Yeah. So I think she was selfless in that, but also doing a disservice to herself at that time.
Yeah.
But everything happens the way that it's supposed to, because I think in that she really found what Jaguar ended up becoming.
Yeah.
So from there, I'm still working at the label.
Sorry, not to interrupt, but are you guys? Have you said, "Let me manage you"?
No,
at this point,
because I was an
A&R.
I was an A&R. I wanted to sign her.
Crazy. You're trying to sign her.
I wanted to sign her. I was like, she's a star. What are we talking about? Let's make the project and put that shit out. Let's go.
Right.
And I'm thinking like, this will be like my one, like me as an A&R, my first signing. Like, I'm so excited about this.
Okay.
And because of politics, like, I'm not able to sign her.
What? How come? It's just, well, listen, that's Keep Cool at the time, right? People miss it sometimes. I'll tell you my story with, with that as well, but.
Yeah. I mean, so at the time that label had started.
Yeah.
The flagship signing was Armani.
Yes.
And then they also had Lucky. Lucky came in with the project, so there's nothing really due. They have Van Jess. Those were the 3 acts on Keep Cool when I came in.
Yeah.
So Normani, it was like a lot of cooks in the kitchen. You've got Brandon at that time who was managing her. You've got Rock Nation is like A&Ring it.
Rock Nation was A&Ring that? No.
Domino's are, yeah.
Oh, really?
Early days. I mean, you're talking like, Jesus, when was Keep Cool launched? 2018, 2017?
Yeah. So I'm like.
So it was like on signing, like she was
I remember.
through S10.
Yeah.
Because that was his partnership.
Okay.
So it was a lot of like cooks in the kitchen, not a whole lot to like wrap my arms around.
Yeah.
As a creative. And so I was going stir crazy. Because I'm like, I'm here, I'm an A&R, like I gotta do something that like is keeping me passionate and excited, because otherwise, like, what am I doing? And Victoria was like the obvious choice, because I also ended up working. Let me take it back. Dima, I've known Dima since I was in high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I grew up. Should I do the story?
Yeah. No, please.
Born in New York.
Please. I want to talk about you, like, your origin story. This is conversation. Yeah. Please tell me the story.
So I was born in New York. Both of my parents are Haitian immigrants.
First generation.
First generation.
Yes.
And then we moved to Jersey. So I was there till I was 12, so 2002. Okay. Then moved to Florida for high school, UNC Chapel Hill for college. But while I was in high school, I got the bug of like, I want to be in music no matter what it takes. Like, I don't know what it is, but I was the kid in the class who people would give me their iPods and be like, cool, like put all the music that you just found on that, right? Like that was me. I love to find stuff, demos, LimeWire, all of that was me. And wanted to be a songwriter. I wanted to be Carrie Hilson. That was one of them. The dream, I was obsessed. Like I loved the people behind the music. And so I would go and find different people that I really liked on Twitter. Twitter had just kind of launched. MySpace was a thing.
Yeah.
And I messaged D on MySpace first.
Wow.
And I was like, hey, I want to be a songwriter. Do you have any like tips? I think
that's good.
I might have even like sent in like a poem that I wrote, like thinking that's
what, you never know.
What does this mean? How do you become a songwriter?
Right.
And he responded, and he was just so nice. And she's like, yeah, like just keep going. He probably has no idea what that meant to me at that time. We talk about it now. But for me as a kid, I'm like, oh, there's encouragement.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the hard part of growing up is we all start out creative. Like we have like huge imaginations, and then along the line, somebody is like, that's not realistic. That's not realistic. And then you start to like beat that out of.
Yeah.
You know?
I would say that the ones that end up in the music business and work in this business are the kids that never grew up all the way.
Yeah, no.
You hold on to that imagination.
You have to have that.
Yeah.
And I'll always be thankful to him for even just sending that message, because I still hang on to it. And he was somebody that I looked at and I was like, yo, he's so talented. And then when Twitter became a thing, like I found him, we followed each other, and he's always been like the same person today. I'm like, he's always been that guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's always been super nice, super humble. I remember when I first came out to LA to visit, it was in college, but it wasn't like, it had nothing to do with music, getting a job. I came with my ex-girlfriend at the time, and I remember him being like, oh, just pull up to the studio and like, hear what I'm working on.
Yeah.
And it was around the time that I think he was going to quit too, because he was still like, oh, like I'm not really seeing any success with this, and just being so excited to be there. And then fast forward to Keep Cool, I walk in the studio for a playback and I see Nat and I see D-Mile and Lucky, and they're playing Painted. And I'm like, you're here? And I'm listening to this, I'm like, oh my God, this album is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And yeah.
And you're working at Keep Cool at this time.
Yeah, I'm working. This is like a full circle. I had reconnected with D since I moved. I moved in 2014.
Yeah.
So I had seen him around. I think I'd just seen him a year prior at like one of the Her shows because he had produced on Her.
Well, of course.
And I was like, oh, congratulations. Cause like things are happening for you now. Cause it's strange. Like even saying that, you're like, now, like he's always been so talented, but now the guy is nominated again for Producer of the Year.
That's like really moving. Yeah.
Oh,
you know what I like about him? And it's
amazing.
I've spent very limited time with him, but he has this energy that is like, it's like wide-eyed almost. Like he's just always excited and appreciative to be there. And like almost like kind of like caught off guard that he's D-Mop.
Yeah.
A lot. It's always like, hey, how you doing, man? Like, what's going on? He's like, oh, so what's up?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And he's very like humble in everything he does.
I think my favorite part about him is that he's just excited about the music. He doesn't care how many followers a kid has. Like, he doesn't care what label they're on. He's like, is this good? I want to work on it. Yeah. And there are very few people that still do that. But yeah, so I'm gonna Keep Cool. I'm excited about Lucky, but I'm like, there's nothing to do here. They made a phenomenal body of work. And so Victoria was like
also important to know that like, I can't contribute to something here.
Yeah.
Normani's already, white glove service over here.
Yeah.
Leave it alone. This project is done. Some people would try and like really try and push their way in.
For what?
But yeah.
The project was perfect to this day. Love it. Perfect. Yeah, no, it was very much like she felt like the most obvious choice to me of everything that a superstar would be. I'm like, she can write her own music. She already has an identity in terms of her brand that she's identified. She made the binder. She knows why. She knows why she's doing it. She can dance.
Yeah.
She's willing to work. What else is there to talk about? You just haven't had somebody to say like, hey, go in for this amount of time with these people, see what happens. Basically a camp. Yeah. And yeah, it felt like a no-brainer. I'm like, I should sign her, help put the album together. We work on the marketing together. You put this out, and then this is gonna pop. This will go. Yeah, for sure. And it was one of those things of like, just the disappointment of wanting to sign and not getting like a clear answer. Yeah. And then eventually it was like, yo, like what's going on? Yeah. Can I sign her? Or like, no. And I remember Tunji telling me like, yeah, we already have Arani. Yeah. I hated that response. Yeah. Because I'm like, they're two different artists. Yeah. And so I always say, I'm like, it was just politics.
Yeah. I like I don't want to speak for Tunji on that, but I also feel like, we can cut this out if you want, but like, honestly,
I'm just being honest with you.
Yeah. No, real shit. But like, I also, if I'm being honest with you, like, that was an expensive project.
100%.
So like, his ass is on the fucking line, and he's got to make this thing work.
Exactly.
That's the politics of it, I think.
So me rewinding, I would say.
Yeah.
Realistically, there's a lot of pressure. If you're a new label, and you've already got one massive pop signing, and you've got the album already came in exactly as is, but there was a bidding war on Lucky, to my knowledge, right? Yeah. And then you've got Van Just, they were still like new, needing to break. So you've got the 3 tiers of like probably what your expenses were. For sure. I didn't know it at the time because I'm just an excited A&R. I'm like, yo, this is the thing. Yeah. If you're gonna spend it, this is the thing to spend it on. and it just not being something that they could do. And for me, it was like, well, I'm not gonna sit and not be a part of this at all.
That's amazing that you did that.
Yeah.
And so you dipped, essentially. You left. You said, well, like, yeah.
I'm gonna go work with Vic.
If I can't sign this, I'm gonna go work with Vic. And went. Yeah. Wow.
And she was so like exciting to work with because she just trusted. She was like, all right, cool. Like, I thought we were already doing this. Like, let's do it. I'll never forget. I was in the parking lot of D-Mall Studio. Yeah. And I was like, so what do you think if I like managed you? Yeah. She's like, yeah, run it. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, what are we?
I thought we were already doing it.
Yeah.
And
unspoken word.
The rest is really history. It's really crazy, but that's how we started. And while I was at Keep Cool, even though I couldn't sign her, we still did the camp. Like, we still worked together and put music together. And
of course you did.
The studio that we were working out of at the time was called Temple Base. We didn't have a real office as Keep Cool. So I was trying to put sessions together. The first session I put together was Deputy. He came in, top floor, Temple Base. I will never forget this session. Came in, was in his Benz, parked, sunglasses on.
Of course.
Comes up, cool dude, comes up. He's in there and Victoria's explaining what she wants. And he's like, man, I wish I would have known this because I would have prepared something. And he's messing around. He and Vic start talking about weed. They roll up and they smoke. He's messing around. And then the first thing that starts playing are the keys to what is now known as Jaguar. So he's like playing that. I'm having a full-blown conversation with Victoria on the couch while he's working, like this. Somewhere in that process, it's just looping in the background, right? Somewhere she's like, hey, like, just let me know when you're ready. And he's like, oh, like, yeah, it's ready if you have something you want to write to. And she's like, oh, okay, cool. I was just waiting on you. We're having a whole conversation. She goes in the booth and she like starts to like kind of like humming, like does her little melodies, and then Supersonic Pussycat, just like a Jaguar silky bat. So let me climb your wood like that. You got not tested. Come hit that. Comes out of her mouth. And we're both like, I look at Depp and he looks at me and he's like, yo, what is she saying right now? How did that just come out how are you writing while you're having a whole conversation with me? And then you go and do that in the booth within like 5 to 10 minutes. But that was the birth of Jaguar. Wow. And I think she's told that story before, but she's like, yeah, I have no idea where it came from. I was literally God. Like, here you go. And ever since she wrote that and we had that bounce, it always felt like this is what your project should be called. It's such a specific imagery. And it was her idea to kind of, like, once we said that and really started to commit to it, she was like, oh, like, let me look up what a Jaguar is. And then seeing like, oh, like Black Jaguar specifically. She's like, oh, I identify with this. I've been in the industry for so long. I've been behind the scenes. Now's my time to pounce. Like, all of it made sense. And we're like, oh, there you go. There's the world.
Totally.
So Depp was the first session of Jaguar in the sense of like, we were intending to make this project. Touch Me is a song that was on Jaguar that D-Mal had done with her.
Yeah.
And they had kept that. And I fought for that song to be on because I'm like, this is R&B greatness. This is literally Janet and Jimmy Jam. Terry Lewis, please put this on. Please. Put this on.
What is those? So I think that's a good thing to touch on a little bit. Fighting for certain records. What does that look like? Because there's a lot of people, you know, and more so, not what does it look like, but it's like, how do you get the artist to agree, or and the executive producer to be like, okay, let's do this?
I don't think you can get them to agree to anything that they don't know deep down.
No, that's true.
I think that might be the real. And I've never actually said that before, but I'm like, I think she knew.
That's true.
Deep down. And I think we have so many debates. It's like bickering and like back and forth, like, oh my God, leave me alone about this damn song. But I think to her credit, she knows if I'm continuing to bring up something, if she really doesn't believe in it, it's like, she'll say like, I'm at my limit. Like, I do not hear this. Please stop talking about it.
Yeah. And then you got to respect that.
Then I got to respect it.
Yeah.
But for certain songs, like the first song we put out together, well, second song, because Monopoly came out, Ass Like That. She had made that in the Keep Cool camp that I did. And I was like, this is your first song off of Jaguar. She was like, really? I don't hear it. I'm like, there are high school kids walking around singing this at the camp. This is your first song after Monopoly. Like, you already had the pop R&B. Like, this is like the bridge. You're using pop melodies. Song's more R&B. Like, it's kind of moving you into what Jaguar will be without it being like a hard left. And I annoyed her about that one enough that she was like, all right, fine, we'll do it. In terms of getting artists to believe in it, On My Mom is like the perfect example of like, that song she made, I think it was 2021, must have been, had to be 2021. She was pregnant, she had given birth already, postpartum. And it was the first song that I heard her do. And I was like, oh, she's back. She's back. Like, she's feeling herself. And it's not like unsure. Like, she's talking that shit. Like, she's really like speaking on herself. And I remember texting her and being like, this is awesome. Like, this is great. She's like, really? Nothing ever comes of it. Because it was literally just like the first verse and the hook. The sample wasn't in that version.
Wow.
And Deputy had done it with Giddy. 2021. We get to 2022. We're working on Jaguar 2. We're thinking about songs, and I keep coming back to this song. I'm like, this feels like very urgent and like a single. And it was always like, really? 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 I'm like, yes, yes, yes. We get to the end of Jaguar 2. And I remember being in the studio with her and D-Mile, and we didn't have the files from my mama. And I hit Giddy and I'm like, hey, can I please get the files for this? Like, we're trying to make it make sense. And he wouldn't send the files. We laugh about this because he wouldn't send the files because he was like, oh, like, what's the plan with the record? I'm like, Giddy,
just give me the.
I am trying to fight. I am trying to fight for this song. Yeah. Send me the files. I'm not going to screw you on this. Yeah, exactly. I just need to like fight for it, and it's not done.
Yeah, I need the song.
I need the song to make the plan happen. And thankfully, he did end up sending it, which thank God. It's so funny thinking about that. But I remember D being like, yo, like, I just don't like. I know that you love the song. I just don't feel like. It's like, whatever, it doesn't really add anything. Because the rest of the project was so musical and beautiful. And it's not to say On My Mama wasn't, but On My Mama was the most accessible song that was on that project by far. Because it's easy to understand. You don't have to be like an Earth, Wind & Fire fan. You don't have to be like a true R&B fan to understand a song. And I remember like, we would keep writing out the track lists. I remember texting Deb and being like, can you please put the sample back in? Like, please, like, I'm fighting here. Like, please. Puts it in. Victoria's like, okay.
Wait, why did you take it out?
It was, I think in the session, she just sang it. And she was like, I think that's like enough.
Okay.
Just like me singing it will bring it back to like, you know.
Yep.
And Deb had put it in. And he tried 3 different, oh no, it was D-Mile who did this. D was the one who got it over the line. He put the sample in and he did multiple versions.
Okay.
Shout out to D-Mile. He did multiple versions. He did a version where the sample was under the hook originally, like while she was singing it. Then he did another version where it was like post hook, where it is now.
Yeah.
And he sent both of them to Vic and she picked one. So then I'm like, okay, we're in the race. We at least got the approval. Like there's a sample, but there's no second verse. We start taking label meetings and the song is in there. She agrees to the order. We do our meetings. We decide to go from being indie to going into a label because we're like, yo, we want to be on radio. We want to like go the next step of really like breaking through and elevating. And we knew we had something special in the album and it felt like wanting to make sure it would go the extra mile and go the distance for the sake of the producers that had spent all of these years working on this project. So that's why we decided to go in. And so as we were playing it every time, depending on who was in the room, I would always find that Black women specifically would go crazy when they heard that song.
I don't know.
Oh, my mama. And Vic would start to see it too. And she was like, oh, okay. Like, I think she needed the validation because she made that song in a time in which she needed to hear that herself.
Yeah.
So that song was always one that she was just unsure of. But her playing it in the playbacks and seeing different people react to it was like, okay, yeah, there's something in this.
Yes.
And we kept that second verse open for so long because she wanted a feature. She wanted a feature really badly. She's like, I feel like it's a rapper. Like, I don't hear myself on it. Da, da, da. And it got to the point of like, we went to like the few people that she could hear and we couldn't get the feature. And we're like, we need to put the album out. Like, this is the last thing. You just make a second verse. And she made the second verse. And I remember laughing in the control room as she's writing it because I'm like, this is hilarious. Like, you're a rapper, low key.
Low key.
Like, what? Like, I'm so deep in my bag, like a grandma with a peppermint. I'm like, what is this?
Bars.
And it's funny because she'll just write and she doesn't even know how dope it is at the time.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, she's like, oh, like, really? You think so? I'm like, yo, it comes so easy that I feel like because it came so easy, she's like, nah, like, whatever.
So whatever. Yeah.
And yeah, like, fighting for that, I think she knew it deep down. I really do.
Yeah, okay.
And she, like, because even then, after the song was done, I tried to add drums to it. Like, I thought it wasn't, like, fully done production-wise. I was adding things. She's like, no, I think it's, like, it's good as is. And that was, like, the moment of chill.
Yeah.
Chill.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? The song is on. Mission accomplished. So yeah, I don't think you can ever get an artist to like change their mind fully. I think they know.
Yeah. And if you do,
and if you have conviction and explain why, like, it was the why for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, you have all of these amazing records. This song gets you this. And it was laying it all out and being like,
what's this? Explain that.
She had so many musically layered songs that were complex. And I knew that because D is D. Yeah. I'm like, people, like, you're going to be the artist favorite because this project is so musically inclined. It's so sophisticated. Like, it makes perfect sense to me that, like, an Anderson will hear it and love it. A Bruno will hear it and love it. A Jimmy Jam will hear it and love it. Babyface will hear it and love it. But it's also about marketing so people can come back to the album. And All My Mama is simple. It is the bass line. It's a couple of drums or, like, claps or whatever. It's the sample in there. And then the horns. There's really, it's space. There's space.
There's a lot of space.
There's a lot of space. Yeah. And at the end of the day, the sample is the thing that gets the kids. I'm like, they may not understand a song like Stop Asking Me for Shit, which has all of these layers and it sounds incredible, but they'll understand On My Mama and be like, ooh, who is that? And then they'll go into the album.
Yeah.
So I think it's like, for me, I always lay it out. I'm like, this is why I feel like you should do this. This is why I feel like this song is really important and you should come back to this and finish it. And hopefully it sits with her long enough of like, okay, I'm down. Or she'll say like, nah, I don't hear it. Like, let's move on to the next thing.
Now, when it gets to that place, you, as a manager, is there ever a point where like, this better fucking work because I'm putting my neck out for this song? Because that's a massive decision.
That is the entirety of my job, though.
Yeah. Now, how are you dealing with that?
It's hard. It's like day by day. I think like what a lot of people don't know is through rolling out Jaguar too, there was a lot of imposter syndrome. A lot of it.
Okay.
Because we had the album, it was done, but we still needed to do content.
Yeah.
And we've got a new partner. So we come in, we like start the clock the second we put out a song.
Yep.
And for me, I'm thinking like, this has to work also because I want them to keep spending because I know what she is. I know where she can go.
And you've been at a label before, so you know the experience.
Oh my God. So like, I'm internalizing all this and trying to not have my artists internalize it, but I know that like the numbers better add up.
Yep.
hopefully they like see and they keep spending to make sure that it can get to where it needs to go. And I remember putting out, initially they wanted to put out the album like all within Q1.
Okay.
Like it was like, oh, like let's put out Smoke, and then the album comes out with Stop as like the focus track. And I was like, we do not agree with this. We don't think that this is an accurate representation of like all of the different layers of Victoria. Because up until this point, we hadn't even showcased the fact that she was a dancer.
Right.
Victoria was a dancer before she was writing songs or singing. Brilliant. That's where she started. Yeah.
Right. No, nobody's seen that coming.
No.
It's amazing.
No, I mean, like you're learning from Phil Tyag, who's the guy from the Jabberwockies, and no one knows that about you. Like that's
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, from SAC. Like she like was a proper dancer.
Yeah.
So that was like a big thing for us. Like, how do we show that if we're gonna have budget? How do we show that this girl can dance and like hold her own?
Oh my God.
And so we disagreed on the timeline. That was multiple calls to Peter of like, hey, like I need you to trust like this. These are the songs that we want to go with. And I remember it was Smoke we put out first.
This is Peter Edge.
Peter Edge.
Chairman of RCA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smoke we put out first with Lucky Day because we had already teased it.
Q1?
No, 420.
Okay.
So we put it out in April. And that's one of the first songs that she made actually for Jaguar. So original Jaguar. We kept that song for 5 years or 4 years because we dropped it in 2023.
Okay.
We put that out. We had shot the video with our distributor Platoon already. So it was already like pretty much ready to go. We put it out. Victoria loved Party Girls and she was like, I just feel like this song is different. And that was like her like, I want to like show a different side of me. It's darker. So that was the next single. Phenomenal video. Didn't quite get the numbers that we wanted it to get at the time, right? It didn't like explode, but it was important because it showed people Victoria can dance.
Yep.
Like it showed the full world and like spectrum of like, ooh, like new on the scene and kind of piqued people's interest.
Yeah.
The next single was On My Mama.
Yeah.
And she teased it first. It was her idea to do the Drewski.
Oh,
thing.
Okay.
She's brilliant.
Yeah.
She was like, oh, like what if we sync this? And Shar on our team, our creative director, spent time like trying to sync the music so it made sense with Drewski doing that 2000s like clip that had gone viral.
Yeah.
We post that goes crazy. She posts a video of her like teasing the song, that goes crazy. We're like, okay, there's something in this. We finally go ahead.
When you're posting these things now, you're having the relationships with the cultural pages, the meme pages, and you have that all kind of laid out as well too, with figuring out where you want to put this?
Kinda, but honestly, all of that was the way that we like map out social rollouts.
Yeah.
Like we think about all the content, we put it out first, and we like to have rollouts for everything, even content. Like even I'm going to tease this song for the first time, then the next 2 days, like I'm going to do this Drewski clip. 2 more days later,
yep,
I'm going to do the HBCU. Like we were very much like, how do we keep this consistent? Because we don't have video for this.
Yeah.
And then it becomes, okay, how do we market this? How do we like seed this out?
And you're watching in real time what the public is gravitating towards.
Yeah.
And then you're hitting.
Yeah. The thing that was really interesting is other managers have asked me that about like seeding and meme pages and all that.
Yeah.
A lot of them started picking her up on her own.
Yeah.
And that was the moment that I realized, I'm like, oh, we are like turning the corner where they're deeming her newsworthy by herself because she had tapped in. Mm-hmm. The Drewski thing really, I think that was like huge.
That's a reality. They'll do that. Like these, when we talk about meme pages, like these culture pages on socials, like, you know, you see a new artist, a carousel of records, like there's a business there of going to these pages and having a relationship and saying, hey, we'd like to spend a budget, get the stuff out there, make it feel organic. But what people don't know is that when it picks up for real, these pages are going to post it.
100%.
Because that means it's going to get eyeballs because they see it's working out there. So they're going to post it as well because they're going to.
That's the sweet spot to be in. Yeah. It's tough. Music discovery is so interesting right now.
Yeah.
I think it's like there has to be something sticky. The other thing that happened that we didn't even account for that helped with the whole rollout was the Sung Cut Challenge. So Victoria had done a performance in 2022, May of 2022. Soul Bloom in Sacramento is her birthday still. And she does a dance break to Sung Cut by Trillville. And the reason why she does it is because on Dive, her song on Jaguar 1, it has the same bed squeaks. Like, it has that kind of like that bed squeak sound where like, yo, that would actually be smart if like, what if we could somehow blend it with Trillville for this dance break that she does on stage. So she does that. And it's funny because it doesn't pick up immediately. Maybe like in the fall.
Okay.
Shauna, who used to work at TikTok, texts me and she's like, hey, I feel like this is going to be a thing. Because I'm seeing before, because she's just, I mean, she was brilliant. Yep. She used to be there. I can't remember where she is now, but Shauna Spears. Thank you.
Shout out Shauna Spears.
She basically texts me and she sends me a couple different tweets. And the tweets are showing different kids like doing the dance, the full choreo to the audio from the festival.
Sick.
And we're like,
to the festival.
It started on Twitter.
Yo,
And Shauna was like, yo, when it starts on Twitter, it's going to TikTok. And when that happens, I'm like, I'm telling you right now, she's like, Vic should do this. Vic should redo the dance. Amazing. And I remember her telling me that. We didn't act on it then.
Okay.
Because I got that text. We started to see it. We're starting to repost it. And then I feel like it really like started to explode.
Yeah.
Like people were just doing it. Victoria jumps in. She does it. We're like, I wish this would be for our song.
Right.
And it's not, but it's visibility.
So how do you tell the story now? How are you connecting it
to those two?
Yeah. Well, with the music, right? With Victoria's music.
That wasn't about the music.
Yeah.
That was about the visibility.
Right.
So some of it is like, yes, obviously, I wish it would translate to streams for a specific song, but that was more about like, one, you're finding out about Victoria as a performer and a dancer, which remember, people don't know that yet. She's not toured by herself ever at this point. She had opened on tour, right. She had opened on tour for Ariana on a Dangerous Woman tour. She'd opened on tour for Fifth Harmony. And at the time that we dropped Jaguar in 2020, it's the pandemic. Yeah. We can't even tour this project. So even though the project's doing well and it's #1 on iTunes, all that stuff, we're like sitting on our hands. You can't do anything.
Yeah.
Then when 2021 rolls around, it's also like she had just given birth. So we're like, okay, like we don't have new music. We could go out, but it doesn't necessarily make sense. We're independent and costs money to tour. Doesn't make sense. We got to wait for the next one. So we just focus on Jaguar 2. So in terms of connecting the dots, it was, I want the visibility of this is who this person is. You may not be familiar with her, or if you are, you're only familiar with her in the sense of slow burn R&B.
Right.
You don't know she can dance and perform. And the song that isn't hers is lit. Everybody knows that song. Not to mention that Isabel choreographed it. And she's like an insane choreographer. She's Usher, Chris Brown. Like she's amazing. And she did that dance break. And she started
the All My Mama?
No, she did the Sung Cut dance break.
Okay.
What's crazy is for Ass Like That, she had been teaching a class on Ass Like That. That had gone viral in its own regard before Sung Cut.
Okay.
So we were like, interesting. There's like a thread here.
Yes.
But anyway, the post was more so just like Victoria Monet's Sung Cut challenge goes viral. And it's obviously like everyone doing it. Yep. And then it's putting it side by side with the original Soul Bloom footage to see her on the stage doing it. So it's just like tying the two things together because everyone was seeing it and everyone wanted to learn it.
Yep.
And then,
And then you go to All My Mama next?
No, that was before we even started rolling out music.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
So it was just like
this in between project.
That's right.
Wow. crazy.
So all of
it's building like the story even before the music. Yeah.
And it's just continuing the story because Jaguar was, okay, we know she only wears brown. That is Victoria Monet's color. She invented the color brown. That's like the tweets and everything.
Yeah.
70s, Motown, Earth, Wind and Fire, horns. Like you're knowing Victoria for that. Then we get into Jaguar 2 and we're like, how do we elevate this? We want to bring more, like, you know, just figure out a darker side or bring more people in. And as we're doing all of that and Party Girls comes out, that has a reggae influence. We're like, that's not necessarily like anything having to do with the 70s, but we wanted to show all the different aspects of Vic. So that was more so important because we wanted to introduce her as a dancer. And then from there, it was On My Mama as a single because we didn't have a music video. And Victoria was adamant about a music video. The label was like, you don't need it. The song is great. Like, we can figure that out later. Maybe we'll see it out to different choreographers.
This shit is, it's out now. And
the song
is up. Yeah, song drops. Label saying, this is funny enough, because I had Director X on the pod.
Yeah.
And I asked him a question, if music videos matter. And it's been picked up everywhere.
Yeah.
And the first thing I thought of was, well, the first thing to be honest, I thought of was Jameson, because like that, I asked that question.
Wow.
I asked that question, and a week later, the Jameson thing is going crazy.
Yeah.
And then Jermaine Dupri jumped into this conversation. A lot of people have been sharing it. It's just been a big conversation, but I think of, well, do they matter? I'm like, of course they matter. Right?
Yes.
That music video broke, in my opinion, in many ways.
100%.
Victoria.
I think the thing that's interesting is it depends on the artist.
Yeah.
Right? If you have a visual artist, here's the thing. Victoria grew up on Beyonce, Janet, like,
yeah.
Well, do I need to say anything? Michael.
Visual artist in the world.
Like that was her MO. It was like, I want to do that. I want to be a triple threat. I want to sing, write, dance, perform. Like she studied performers.
Yeah.
So the thing that's really interesting about her is the things that broke her are the most archaic forms of promotion. They're also the most expensive forms of promotion. Like radio and that music video broke Victoria 100%.
Yes.
People will say, oh, radio doesn't matter. I'm like, radio mattered.
I say it all the time.
Radio mattered. For us, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the video was an incredible vehicle of you're getting her out in the world to everyone in a way in which they want to jump in. They want to do the dances, but they also resonate with like the culture that's in it.
Yeah,
whether
absolutely.
it's like the Katie Got Bands part or like the bag walk meet, like all of that stuff.
Everything, yeah.
It was perfect.
Yes.
Like I really, like if I think about that, like between Victoria, Sean, Charlotte, they really nailed it.
It's a beautiful video. It speaks to Black culture in a massive way, American Black culture. And you're hitting all the right notes on everything there to make it visually just like, it connects at a different level.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's very intentional, that music video.
I think also there's a misconception of like, I think when you have success in a certain way, and especially if it's in the pop realm.
Yeah.
There is this strange, I don't understand why, but there's this strange tendency to be like, the world and the internet wants to strip that person's culture away from them just because they have pop success, which is odd. I don't understand it. It was something that I had to battle, like trying to get Victoria to be someone that people would take seriously.
Yeah. It's not mutually exclusive. I don't know what world we're living in.
I'm like, guys, just because she can write hits for someone else and they happen to be white or they're a pop artist doesn't mean that she's any less of a Black girl from Sacramento that was born in Atlanta. That really, like, it was so strange. And I think it's an interesting thing that our industry does of like, oh, if they write pop songs, especially if they're a person of color, then they don't have the sauce. I'm like, what? Like that's nowhere, that doesn't make any sense. And that, believe it or not, that was something that people would tell me. And so I think
I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think On My Mama was like the perfect example of like, she got to fully embody every aspect of herself in one video so that you can understand who she was as a person.
Yeah.
Like you've got her daughter in there, you've got her mom in there, you've got the lowrider cars at the end,
Yes.
like being from SAC. Like, I didn't know this, but that culture is huge there. Like, there were so many things.
Lowriders?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
There were so many things in that I feel like spoke to who Victoria is. And I don't think that people really took her seriously. And I definitely don't think that, even though there was a respect of like, this person is talented, I think that really solidified her as like, oh, she's a performer. She's a visual artist in terms of like music videos. You wanted to watch that. And like recreating and pulling from like Sierra influence, Maya influence from the wardrobe too. It was such an paying homage to everything that inspired her before.
Yeah.
So that was by far, like, music videos do matter, but it depends on who they're for.
How do you convince the label at this point? Now spend the bag on this. We need it.
Bag. Bag.
Yo, Peter, listen.
Oh my God.
You may not understand this, Peter, but we get it. Like, please.
It was, man, it was more so a conversation of like, we have to do that. You sign this artist and she is a visual artist.
Yeah.
And we haven't really given her the opportunity. Like, Party Girl, she's dancing, but that's not the song to dance to. I'm like, we gotta, like, we won't know until we try. The song thankfully was out beforehand, so it's doing well to justify, like, please, we want to do this. And then contractually, we also had to shoot 3 music videos. That was like a thing of like 3 music videos.
Got it.
But also, we need to spend this on this one, please.
Now, do you have in the agreement that how much of the spend would be for the music videos? Is the same music video?
Music video.
Yeah, because that could mean.
I mean, yeah, and there you go, and that's how they get you.
But
I mean, I think that's also the role of like the manager is like, you need to advocate, and a lot of it, like, I would bring Victoria in too. I'm like, they need to also hear from you. Like, I wanted them to feel the passion, because I can do that all day long. Of like, I'll fight till the death, whatever, to make sure they understand like what we're here to do. But from her and being that close and getting to the place that she was at, like, I wanted people to understand that she is a visual artist, but it's coming from her brain as well. Like, we have an amazing team of creatives, and it starts from a group chat often. It's me, Shar, Jess, Victoria. And it's literally jokes. Like, we will just throw out there like, oh, wouldn't this be funny? Like the Drewski thing, wouldn't this be funny? And then it becomes a thing. It becomes a thing.
Start looking into it. Actually.
Yeah, actually.
Start building on the idea.
Actually. Or like the different sororities and fraternities. And like, I remember like pulling those off of TikTok and sending them to Shar myself. Like, can you just do the same thing? And we sent like the whole carousel to Victoria. She's like, this is great. Let's put this up. But that all comes from that brain trust of like the 4 of us. But Victoria is an active participant in that. She's not the person that you make all the ideas and you bring them to her, and then she just, is just putting it out. And so that was important for me, for the label to feel. But yeah, you have to beg. I had to beg.
Can I ask what that's like? Because to my knowledge, I don't know of a full team of women in the C-suite. Like, I mean, all making the decisions.
Wow.
Am I wrong in that?
I'm thinking about it now that I'm like, I don't think there is.
And I could be wrong, but like, I really do feel like in many ways it's uncharted territory, and it is what you guys are doing, which is amazing. Talk to me.
It was Kismet, I think.
Okay.
For sure. Like, it's so hard to find a creative. And when I first started working with Victoria, that was like my priority too. After the music, it was like the creative has to set you apart.
Yeah.
And it has to be different from anything you've ever done. It needs to be elevated. It needs to be like, you work with directors that are borderline like film, like just texture, and like, what can we do that would set you apart from your peers? Valentine Petit was a perfect example of that. He did the Moment video. He had never done R&B video before. Okay. He had done I basically stalked this man. R.I.P. to Valentine. Not from me, but he passed away. But I literally went on Vimeo and I was just digging. I honestly don't even remember how I found him and Anton Tammy. That's funny because Anton is now like The Weeknd's guy. And at the time he hadn't done one video for The Weeknd.
Oh, wow.
And I remember just going through and finding like different music videos, and Anton's was first for a group called Jill. I don't know. It was like some Swedish thing.
Okay.
And he had all of these crazy transitions. And I was trying to find something for Moment because it felt so cinematic. And that was Tim and Dima. And I was like, this is the perfect way to create like this new world, this new era, mark this new era at the top of the year. We have to have like the right video to do it. And Anton, I eventually got in touch with. He came over my apartment. Victoria was there. We all met. And that's when he told us, like, man, like, I think I might have something with Abel. And we didn't know it at the time, but that was him going off to do Blinding Lights. So he had met with us right before he was about to go shoot that. And of course, the rest is history there. He was busy man.
Yeah.
To do that whole rollout. And Valentine, I could not get in touch with him to save my life. I reached out to Division Paris, was the agency in France, and it was like, oh yeah, he's not going to do it. But I also felt like a bit of a chip on my shoulder because I'm like, oh, they're looking at the other videos and they don't think that she's capable of making this incredible like art piece for whatever reason. And I was like, nah, like I'm going to find a way to him. And I kept looking. And eventually I go back on his Vimeo and I find his producer, Jermaine. And I reach out to him. And that was his in-house producer. So it was outside of the agency.
Smart.
And he's like,
that's the person you have to connect with. Yeah.
That was the person. And he was like, this is cool. It was like, tell me more. So we send the song. He initially does a treatment. Victoria doesn't like it. But they like have a conversation. There's a bit of a language barrier, obviously, because of French. And eventually it gets to a place where she's like, okay, like, let's do this. But where are we going to shoot it? Because he had the idea of like going through, like figuring out how like the camera would work for transitions. The reason why I wanted to use one of those two directors is because Victoria specifically had the idea of like, I want the video to feel like if you were high and like making love to somebody.
Okay.
Like it's that, because that's what the song is about, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, I want that to be visually represented. And I'm looking and I see Anton has like all the same, like the transitions going through. It's weird. It's like experimental, but he's busy. Valentine had just done a video for ASAP Ferg. And it was this crazy like BMX, like, what's nuts is it actually was like a BMX bike product placement commercial, but it was for him as an artist. So it was a single. And I'm looking and I'm like, yo, this is like some Dexter Navy, like cool shit where like it started out, if you watch it, it's amazing. It starts out like goes through the cup into a different world. And I was like, this is the guy. He's already doing it, but he's doing it for rappers. We just need him to do it for her.
Yeah.
And I would get excited because I'm like, I've never seen that in R&B. I've never seen somebody do that, and now we have to do it. So anyway, we fast forward. He's talking about his treatment. Victoria loves it. She's down. And Jermaine comes back and he's like, all right, well, for this budget, we need to shoot in South Africa.
What? Okay.
The whole video costs less than $100,000. That sounds like, well, less than, like only. When you watch that video, there's no way you could do that video now for less than that. Especially going to South Africa.
That's like
crazy amount of favors. And even then.
Their idea was we want it to be different worlds, literally. So different scenes. So if you watch, it's like them in the middle of a field. Then it's them underneath this tree somewhere completely separate. Then it's them like in the house. Then it's like it's going all the way around to like this platform in the middle of this water by the ocean. Like we figure out a way to give her what she wanted initially, which was like traveling through all these worlds and having this transcendent experience. And Valentine still got out his artistic vision.
Yes.
But that was like I forgot why we were talking about this.
the executives, all women.
Oh, yeah.
This happens.
Oh, yeah, I know.
This happens in these conversations.
Yeah. So, sorry. So going.
No, don't apologize, man. I love that. I love all this. This is great.
Shar actually was our creative director in-house at Platoon. And the first time we had that meeting with the distributor, we were like, I feel like you speak my language. I feel like we hit it off. And it's interesting because that does not happen. Having an in-house creative at any of these companies like that is virtually impossible. Like, I think I know just about the majority of them. And like, I can maybe name one other label that has that renowned, but she was like a diamond in the rough. Mm-hmm. And we clicked immediately. She liked the music. She got along with me and Vic. We had a different creative director in terms of like assets that we tried to bring in, and that didn't really work out. It wasn't like a personality fit. And our social media person at the time was like, oh, I think I know somebody, like she works with me. And that was Jess. And we meet Jess and her personality fits and she starts sending over assets. I'm like, ooh, this is cool. We've got the art director that makes all this stuff. We've got Shar as the creative director who also can edit and like animate and do all types of stuff. And then me and Vic. And it's just, very organic. And it is.
And people ain't getting paid like.
No.
It's just on the love at the.
Right?
No. And I think that's the thing that like, it makes me emotional even now because I'm so grateful to have them. Like Shar and Jess are like the unsung heroes of Team Victoria Monet, in my opinion, because without the creative being right, that's the vehicle that makes everyone else care. If the creative ain't right, the song could be cool, but it's like, like you don't really know if you want to go to a show or watch the music video because it's not right.
So important.
So that is one of the like, we are very lucky. I don't know anybody else that has that. I pray that it's always like that because it's just like the chemistry and understanding and being able to find that and find people that are willing to grind when there is no money.
Yes. Sub
is like
underrated.
Yeah. To me, it's there's something like special about being in it with people before it was popular and everybody is putting in 1 million hours, blood, sweat, and tears. They're down to have the conversations. It doesn't matter if you can't really pay for it right now. Like they were in for the long haul.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like the most rewarding thing should always be like, if those people were there from the beginning, when you get to that level of success, you keep going with those people because they invested, and sweat equity is a real thing.
Sweat equity is the most important.
It's the most important thing. I'm like, it's cute now if you want to come around when it's all popping, but like the people that were there when it wasn't cute, when it wasn't lucrative, I'm like, those are the people you take care of and you look after because 100%. They put in the work.
100%. And they also are, when you change a very important piece to the puzzle like that, if say, managers, for example, this shit happens all the time.
All the time.
Artist gets on, the world starts to know him, manager gets let go. 9 times out of 10, guess what happens with that artist? This shit goes 9 times out of 10, not always. It goes left. It doesn't feel the same. It doesn't work the same because there's this thing that we have in this business that I think the general public doesn't know. To your point, the unsung heroes, and you're that as well, obviously, as a manager, and they don't understand. Yes, it's the artist that's forward facing, but there's a brain trust, to your point.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of conversation that happens behind the scenes, but you only get the 2.5 to 3.5 minute song video and you get the performance. But everything else that's happening behind the scenes is a core group of individuals that are super in sync, super connected, know each other really well, and are a culture fit to one another.
Yeah.
When you remove one piece of that, that rocks a foundation.
Yeah.
And so to know that, I think that's important for all artists and managers that come into this business. Even the creators, don't think that when you get on, that superstar manager is going to be able to super serve you as an artist. It's not the case, because that artist manager that all of a sudden, like, you know what, I think I can, and especially if things are going amazing.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Like, you don't want to get rid of that team because that other artist manager might be great in their own right, but plucking that person and bringing them in, first of all, they already got the horse that they rode in on. So they're,
there's nothing to prove.
What's that?
There's nothing to prove.
Not to prove.
I think the thing that's interesting is like, I like to think of it as not being on. It's just like, oh, the light's on. Like, you're not really. I look at Vic and I'm like, to me, she hasn't broken yet, because there's still so much that we have to do. You know what I mean? I'm like, I think that she's like broken into consciousness.
That's funny you say that. Yeah, like, I asked Jesse that.
You know what I mean? I'm like, people know you now.
Yeah.
But it's like, she's a superstar, and there's no stopping until you become a superstar. Like, there's still so much to do. So it's an interesting thing. I think when people even talk to me now, they're like, oh, like, what's it like to like, I'm like, I have not made it. I have not made it yet.
I'm gonna tell you that the people do not think that.
That's so crazy.
But because you're in the middle of the storm.
Yeah.
And you guys all know, like, this is great. We had a great moment.
Yeah.
At the Grammys, for example, Best New Artist.
Huge. And massive. I'm very grateful for that.
For sure.
By the way. It's not to say that. It's just like a.
But you wake up the next day and you're like,
I think about the binder. And like, there's so much. And I'm like, when I see, every single time I see Victoria perform, I'm like, she has to be in stadiums.
Yes.
Has to be in stadiums. And that is like the thing for me.
That's breaking.
That is the thing for me. It's like when you see people sobbing, singing the songs back. When we were in London for All Points East Festival, there were 30,000 people that were all yelling on my mama. Like, that feeling of that many people in another country, I'm like, oh, more of that. More of that. Because that's like, people are willing to spend the money to come see you.
Yeah.
That's like the real sign to me, is like the live show.
Yeah.
If you can, like,
people are taking money out of,
taking money out, time out of their day, bringing people to the show, buying the merch at the show.
Yeah.
And they leave and they're talking about you. Like, that's the most valuable marketing, always.
Yes.
Still to this day. Like, that to me is the place that's where she's going. I just think that for me. So in terms of like when people get on and then they switch up and all of that stuff, that's just like, it's devastating for me to like see that happen, because I know that artist will never know all of the things that team did. Not just the manager, but like the creative director, the art director, the like anyone that's been rocking with you from jump. And I feel like now that the lights are on, I'm like, cool, let the entire team shine. Like, elevate that team. Yeah.
Does it ever become a challenge because you're a woman and is
absolutely
male dominated and
100% all the time?
Yeah.
Where do I start? I walk into rooms with Vic and some people will be like, oh, it's the assistant.
Crazy.
Yeah. Or
still?
I think there's a look of surprise when she's like, oh, that's my manager.
Okay.
Some people will be like, oh, it's her sister.
Wow.
It's her sister, that's her assistant, that's her, it's never like a business role. Oh, that's your friend.
Right.
It's like, no, that's my manager. And that happens all the time. It's like,
Yeah, it's just whatever.
No, it's just whatever. I still kind of carry myself like, yeah, I'm her manager,
Yeah.
But I don't expect for that to go away, because that's just people's preconceived notion of like, oh, there must be some manager, like some man behind this person, especially if she's successful. So there's that element. There's the element of trying to negotiate and advocate for your artist and being called aggressive or bitch or any of that stuff. But if a male manager is calling you like, hey, we should be doing this, or this doesn't make sense, there's no, oh, they're just being a manager. Deal with that all the time. What else as a woman? There's a lot of...
I was going to say, yeah.
When a man's assertive, they're stepping in their power. That's how we kind of look at it as a society. Like a man's assertive, he's confident. Woman's assertive, she's a bitch. It's very like annoying.
Yeah, I do, of course.
It's very annoying because that is the quality that you have to get things done. You can tiptoe all day long and be like, please, could you just approve this budget? Could we get a little bit more money to shoot a video? Like,
and guess what? When you're being nice, they don't respond to it.
They don't respond to it.
Yeah.
There's a way to do things, of course, but it's like you do have to add a little bit of like, hey, like we came here, like this is a partnership. Yeah. We need the funds. We need it now. Like, we need that to be a real thing that we agreed upon, and for you to show how much you really believe in this artist. Like that's you kind of have to put people back on like notice, like, hey, how much do you really believe in it? And having that conversation and doing it from like a confident place. If you're a woman, is like, oh, she's being aggressive.
Which is crazy. Yeah. Like, I mean, to me, because I think of that and how you're so knowledgeable in the space on the creative side. Just you're a encyclopedia of information when it comes to
love learning.
Yeah, clearly. And the best in this business, I believe, are the ones who are constantly learning. You are all of that.
Thanks.
And it's very apparent from the first time we speak to you. But so even like, I just think that's just, I'm going to be blunt, like when people think that way, they're either A, out of touch, B, they're just stupid. And they just, I don't think they even belong in the position that they're supposed to be in. When they think that you're the sister, you're not actually the manager. Like, have the decency and respect that if this person is in the room for a meeting, it means something to this person. So what does that even mean? I'm going to immediately assume if you're coming to a business meeting, if I'm on the other side, you are management, you're a creative.
You're an important piece to this world.
Right.
Why would you
There's a reason.
There's a reason you're in that.
Yeah.
Like,
that is actually something that a friend of mine said to me. His name's James Samuel. Love him. Director, all around creative, did The Harder They Fall, all of that stuff. Oh. And he would take me around like just different people. And I remember going to like the first goal party I was at. I remember him inviting me, and it was just like, I wasn't working at the label. There was no reason, really, in my opinion. I'm like, I don't have a title to be in this room. And I'll never forget what he said to me, because it wasn't just that. It was, he would do these things called the saloons, and he would just bring all of these musicians in. And it was like this speakeasy, like music jam session. And he would tell me, he's like, don't ever forget that you belong to be here.
Yes.
And there was no, like, he wouldn't say anything past that. It's like, hey, I can see you kind of looking around. You belong to be here. And he would just affirm that every time. And I remember that. And it's interesting because the other thing about being a woman in this industry is you struggle with, and I'm speaking for myself, I struggle with imposter syndrome. Because I'm like, oh, like, you know, the things that some of my male peers would do with complete confidence, I'm like, should I do that? I think about it. I question it. And then I do it. It's like it's something you have to unlearn.
Yeah.
You know, it's very strange.
I would say that I wouldn't even look at it in terms of like those male peers that they do with complete confidence. I bet you a lot of the times they don't.
Yeah.
But it's the shield.
It's the shields.
That they put.
It appears.
It appears that way.
It appears. It's so funny because I would look at Tyler Honey is one of my great friends, right? And he's younger than me, right? And I would watch him and I'm like, oh my God, he's crushing it. He's like, and I would aspire to have that level of confidence. And then when I talked to him, he's like, man, I didn't know what. Like, it's so
I had the same with Pat Corner, who used to bet his chance. He's like 7 years younger than me.
Oh my God.
And I used to see how he cool when they were doing this. We were around a lot at that time. I was like, the way that this person, you know, dealt with all these things. And then when I talked to him, you know, in more like intimate setting, it was like, oh man, you're a human.
Yeah.
She's being vulnerable in like these situations. You're just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know?
I think like the thing that's so funny that people ask me, they're like, oh, you know, the rollout of Jaguar 2, like you guys just did this. Through that whole rollout, I was panicking. What?
Sorry,
I'm like
you're never not panicking.
No, you're never not panicking. I'm like,
sign of a good manager.
I want like the money to be like, because I'm thinking about like recruitment. I'm thinking about the next thing always. I'm like, I want to be able to make the ask and us get it easily without having to prove ourselves. So Smoke comes out and it's fine, right? Because it's reinforcing the R&B audience that we have. It's reinforcing like, we've been teasing this song. Here you go. We're kicking off this era. We have Party Girls come out. That's cool, but it reinforces her as a dancer, but it doesn't take her out of here.
Right.
And this whole time, the label's like, oh, like the album. When is it coming? Like, when are we going to pick the release date? And we kept pushing it back because we didn't have the heat that we felt we needed to drop.
Oh, interesting. Album. So you knew that. And so you're pushing back against that.
Yeah, we both were. At a certain point, RCA was like, yeah, like we don't have the heat that we feel like we need, you know? And it was interesting because On My Mama comes and we're like, okay, this is the moment. And we picked the release date for the album. She was set to go on tour like right after that. We've been pushing it back.
But it's amazing. I mean, because like in so many ways, I mean, this is all in real time. I haven't had a chance to speak with a manager going through it right now.
Yeah.
Me and Jared are supposed to talk, but
that's gonna be great.
Yeah. His
stories. No.
Both of y'all.
Yeah.
It's like it's just uncharted waters.
So many lives, so many jobs.
Huh?
So many lives, so many jobs. Then management.
I know.
Same.
But hey, here we are. So, On My Mama, when did you know? When was the moment when you were like, oh, this is starting to go? Like you're starting to see the streams pick up. You're starting to really see things, if you can remember.
It was multiple points. She like seeing the creates on the sound before she dropped it. That was encouraging.
Yes.
Then it was, dang. We went on tour like maybe a week or two after the album dropped.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so no one knew the songs. You would think that no one would know the song by the time we would start tour.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll never forget that DC show. That was a Restarted. And they were so loud. Honestly, the first like 5-6 cities.
That's when you know.
Well, she would go viral after every performance. That was its own thing. Not just tour. Like literally from Soul Bloom, like she would always trend on Twitter. Yeah. First one, like we did Day in Vegas. That was her first festival. First performance postpartum. Trending. And she hated that performance because she's, she's superstar perfectionist.
Yes,
she's like, oh, it's not. But that was like my first like, oh shit, we got something. Anyway, fast forward to tour.
That's so funny. That artist is always the same. Artists will be like, doesn't matter if everybody loves it.
No.
The artist will be like,
but I feel like that's just like anyone who's really great at their craft is practicing, wants to be better, right? Like Kobe.
You want to be perfect. Yeah.
LeBron, like they're, you know what I mean? Like you want to, you're like, game tape, notes, got to do this better. This wasn't good. I think that's just.
There's this one time that MTV Awards, Jessie's performing and she's doing Apple Juice. Crushes it.
Yeah.
But there's a moment where the mic, because she's in it, right? And she's performing and the mic hits her in the mouth, right? Nothing. Doesn't skip a beat. Just keeps going. Still crushes it. She gets off the stage and she's just mortified. But like, yo, dude, fuck that mic moment. You crushed it.
Right.
Crushed it so much that Steven Tyler was performing with Post Malone to close the show.
Yep.
came through the audience, stopped, saw Jessie, went, grabbed her hand, kissed her on the head, like, you're incredible. Kept going. Kept going at that point. Oh, guys, she was like,
well, she's a rock star.
She's a rock. Yeah,
like you see her live and you're like, she's not there on the stage. Like, no, there's another.
That's a whole other being. Yep. And then when she gets off the stage.
Yep. Back to being very. Best ones. Vic's the same way.
Yeah.
She's the same way. And then I have another artist, St. Harrison, same way.
Oh, he's incredible
like,
voice.
Insane. I'm like, you seem like just possessed. And they get off and they're like, oh, is it okay? I'm like, was it okay?
That footage of him when you guys had the power outage.
Oh my God. That was our first London show.
Oh my goodness.
And like power goes out. He's panicking because he's never done like his show for him as an artist. Like
that's his first show.
He was gigging. Like he kind of has like the Beatles have a similar story where they just were like learning how to perform because they just kept performing everywhere they could.
Yeah, I think in Germany or something.
Saint was doing the same thing.
Okay.
Which is why I'm like, I can't wait for him to go on tour. He would just sing and like just do covers, do weddings, all that stuff. And now it's time for him to do his own music. So of course he's like, oh, it's like the power's out.
Yeah.
I can't do this show. And we go downstairs and Lucy Dickens is his agent.
Oh,
She's amazing.
Yep.
Legend. And she's like, all right, wait a second. Like, there's a pub downstairs. And we're like, yeah, he should just stay. He has the voice for it.
Of course.
I'm like, if there's anyone who's going to do it, he should do it. He should just stand on the table.
Yep.
And we go downstairs and we tell everyone, like, hey, show's not over. Not over. It hadn't even started. We're like, we're going to do the show downstairs. Everyone fills in. He stands on and he sings the whole thing a cappella. And they were singing, that's the moment. They were singing his songs back to him. And then Ego Talking was the one like went.
Yeah. That clip was viral. Yeah.
And that's the moment that, but for All My Mama, it was the same. Like seeing the reaction of the fans is different from, okay, cool, numbers and creates. That's all. It's an indicator, but I never like to look at that as like I want to touch the people and see what do you guys actually feel? What does it feel like in real life?
Yeah.
And oh my God, them being louder than her, the first like 5-6 shows, cities, it was a thing on Twitter of like, please, the sound engineer, someone help the mic. Like, cause they would literally be yelling like all the words to her song. We did like small rooms.
Yeah.
Because it was our first tour.
Yeah.
So we went conservative and then we were trying to upgrade, but everyone was going on tour. Yeah. So that was tough. So the ones where we could, we did. And the ones that we couldn't, we're like, you know what? Let's just do it and then we'll come back. And so it was like 1,200 to 15s.
Yeah.
And then if we could.
Loud.
And it felt so good though.
For sure.
Like, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like if she could have gone out and done like 3,000 plus cap rooms, it wouldn't have had the same feeling as like those small rooms in those cities. You're seeing somebody that's going to be a superstar.
It's a different energy.
Oh my God, yeah. We upgraded Terminal 5 in New York, and that one was obviously a 3K. Yeah. It was madness. And everyone, when All My Mama comes on, screaming it. We were in Texas and it rained. There's a viral video, like if you search Vic's name on Twitter, it probably is like one of the first ones to come up because it's still going. Was the audience left and they were still singing On My Mama, and then they started singing like a gospel song. The same thing happened in London.
Show's done.
This is them filing out of the venue.
Wow.
London. Wow. Same thing. Singing On My Mama on their way out. I'm like, yeah, it's different. This is different because you've got that, but then you've got like the celeb, whoever that is totally removed from our culture, syncing it to like their stuff and like singing along to it, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
This is just everyone loves the song.
Is there still panic in that moment?
Panic how?
Well, you're saying like I was panicking when I was putting it.
Okay. I love that. I loved it. I love it still. Every time it comes on, I'm like, man, wow, it's amazing.
No, but I mean more so like, because you're saying earlier. Relief. What's that?
There's relief.
This is relief now.
There's relief.
There's relief, yeah.
Yeah.
This is working, okay.
When it starts to resonate with the people, that's the relief for me. The shows were it. I'm like, there's like just knowing that it's really affecting them. And seeing like all the viral videos, like the dances that people were doing and they're learning it and doing all that. I'm like, oh, like, yes, this is the thing that everyone is searching for of like, oh, I can get the TikTok and get the. I'm like, this is literally across the board. It's the identity song. It's literally rooted in like, she made a song that's an affirmation song for her postpartum. Like it checked all the boxes.
Yeah. What was it that made sense for you guys to have RCA as a partner?
We knew we wanted to go to the next level.
Yeah.
And I think when we started out, the partner that we had, Platoon, amazing partner. Denzel is amazing. He was the only person that saw Victoria for who she was, the same way that I did, of like, he believed in her vision and her music, and he never questioned any creative choice. And that was huge.
Oh, nice.
And he put so much, like in terms of funding, way above and beyond what a normal distributor would do. Like I'm talking, I had gone to the others and I'm like, okay, like we're trying to build leverage so that we can go in a system. This is 2019, right? So this is the time when everybody's doing this and the new upstream.
Yes.
And he was like, what will make her comfortable? I want to do that in this deal and I want it to be friendly so she feels comfortable. And he conceded on a lot of points and was willing to do a deal with us that was really beneficial to her. Like for her to not feel like, oh, I'm going in and like there's all this pressure. He was like, make the music I want to make, put it out. When she got pregnant and we had the call with him, he was like, take the time you need. When we had to like figure out the timing of like singles in between, like there wasn't a set budget for those. But he was like, obviously we're going to keep supporting this and funding it.
Yeah.
It came time to grow in the sense of like, we knew that we wanted radio. We knew we wanted all of the traditional forms of marketing, and there wasn't an in-house radio team. This is not what the distributor's supposed to have. They don't even earn the same way that a label does, right? So it's not...
Especially in that time.
Yeah, it wasn't like, I'm like, no fault to them whatsoever. It's like, why would you have a radio department when you're earning, like you're making sure all the artists own their masters. Yeah. So why would you know what I mean? So at that point it was, we want to go somewhere where we have a shot at radio, where we are getting the funding to really do videos the way we want to do them so she can dance, do the marketing, have skits, like do all of the things to really create a rollout. And that takes money.
Yep.
And the label is the bank. That's really what we were looking at it as, was like, yes, the bank, but also hoping for the infrastructure of like, let's get some more arms around this project and hopefully they will spread the word in like Australia and like Korea, like all of these different places. So that was the thought process. And RCA, the roster made us feel like, oh, they understand. They understand. Yeah. Lucky was there. You got her, you've got Thames, you've got SZA, Gambino, you've got Bryce. Like it felt like a cool space for R&B. Steve Lacy at the time was going crazy. Yep. It felt right in the sense of looking at.
That's right. That was RCA. Wow.
When we were looking at who would allow creative freedom on top of pushing the envelope for promo, they seemed like the right fit at that time to do it.
Yeah. So
we were like, okay, this is where we should go.
Cool.
We did it. Yeah.
Yeah. I always liked Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah. He feels like, well, he's definitely a music
guy.
He's an A&R.
He's a music guy. Yeah.
Heavy music guy.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about just that video of the Grammys and not the nominations.
Oh, wow.
Because that's epic.
Yeah.
You said you didn't know you were going to.
No.
Yeah.
No. No.
Well,
no.
let's
I was hoping for one or two.
say word.
You know what it is? It's like we manifest everything. We write everything down.
Yes.
And there was a point in which I had the Grammy as my background on my phone. I would look at it all the time, like hoping.
Mm-hmm.
And the best thing we could have done in that time period, it was so serendipitous. Timing is everything. But us putting out the album on the heels of On My Mama and then going on tour.
Yeah.
Tour was its own beast of marketing.
Fair.
Like that felt like the rollout started all over again because people
That's fair.
like Victoria on a stage is a different beast.
Mm-hmm.
And it contextualizes the music in a way that you're looking at this person, you're like, ooh, like she's a student of all these people that I love that I don't get to see perform anymore. And every time we would perform, trending, or like the videos would move, those would go out on TikTok, get tons of, like all of that. And it was very clear that like, this is the thing. And I knew that from back from Day in Vegas. So from 2022, I'm like, this is the vehicle. Like truly all the traditional forms of breaking an artist are what work for Victoria. Performance, expensive. Well, not expensive. They all cost stuff.
Yeah.
It's investment. But going back to our rollout, the thing that actually kicked off the Jaguar 2 rollout was a show.
Oh, was
People
it?
don't know that.
Okay.
So Alasia, shout out to Alasia, had an amazing series called Spotify Firsts.
Yes.
And they were supporting artists and picking artists to do their first show in that market at that time. So Victoria, they wanted to do the first show in LA that they've never done one before. So we did the El Rey. He put the tickets up. They sell out in like a minute. That became like the thing.
That's a moment, yeah.
Like every time we put up tickets for Victoria's show, sells out. So we did that. And I remember talking that through. And that was a moment of like, should we do this? Da-da-da. And having to explain that even to Peter of like this, Peter and Fleck, like this matters. Yeah. They're like, we could do this whenever. Like, is it really important to do a show before? Because we did it before Smoke dropped.
Okay.
So this is the very first thing that we did for Jaguar 2 to be like, this is coming.
Wow.
We dropped new photos. She had blonde hair, so we picked like the new era. First photo just says like, baby, can we smoke, has the date. Then it says R&B firsts, like the next post maybe 2 days later. Has Victoria, has like the poster that Jess had done, incredible. Feels very Marilyn Monroe-ish. Here's some of my favorite imagery of like our entire rollout. And then the next one be like, put out the tickets, sells out in a minute. The energy in that room was amazing. And the label comes, and I think that's the moment they realize.
That turns them, yeah.
Yeah. So I had already known from seeing it and experiencing it myself. I'm like, oh, this is the thing.
Yeah.
People don't really know. Like, oh yeah, she can perform. Like she can entertain people on the stage. So that whole tour was right in the middle of Grammy voting.
Oh.
So every show that we did, you've got people saying like, wait, have you seen Victoria? Oh, like they're seeing it on the internet. We invited people out to every single, like every city where there was a chapter. Like, please come. We did everything possible from the start of the year because we knew the album we had was incredible and so musical. So she did showcases. Like we did all the things, all the press, just trying because it's a dream. Yeah, for the Grammys. Absolutely. Because
there's campaigning involved in
on 100%. But we had started that from even press for Jaguar. Dana Meyerson, our publicist, was always hitting up all of the critically acclaimed like outlets. And the first one was critically acclaimed. So when this one came out, it just so happened that it was at a time that we could tour, do more with it. And obviously it's on a label. So we had been planting those seeds for years, really, because press is also important, like NPR, all of that stuff, because that's where the Grammy voters are paying attention.
Yeah.
to see if the music is credible, and it is. You know, we did. We had a song with Earth, Wind, and Fire called Hollywood. That's one her daughter is on.
Oh, okay.
And so before they went out on tour, we did an interview with Live Nation for them. And like, we're thinking of all of this of like, of course this is bucket list, but we're also thinking of, we want to continue to reinforce the story of like, Victoria's a real artist, real musician, real producer, like for as many people that will see that as possible. So by the time we got on tour, people were already familiar, but I think that was the thing that hopefully sent them over the edge, or I guess it did, because they came to shows and they're like, oh, like this feels like, because she had some Tina Turner like influence in that. She had some Diana, like it was really wonderfully done. Kira Harper was the lead choreographer on that show, and she stitched it together to make it all feel like this 70s Supreme meets like what Beyonce and Janet would do.
Right.
And like that wasn't something that was being done at the time. So it felt special to go. So yeah, it was, I think that was the thing. So I didn't know that we were I was hoping that we would get nominations, right? But get 7. I'm like, what?
That's crazy.
That is insane. Like I remember like talking to Vic, and there was something going on in her house, so she wasn't staying at her house. She was staying at a hotel. And we were talking about filming the announcements for the Grammys.
Yeah, okay.
Knowing like our whole story up until this point has been underdog.
Yep.
World against us. Probably may not happen, but it's a good story to tell one day. So we're like, okay, if we don't get anything, it'll be part of the story, but at least like we filmed it. The thing that had coincidentally happened the same day was All My Mama had gone #1, I think at Rhythmic Radio. So it had already gone #1 at Urban Radio, then Rhythmic, then R&B. And I believe it was Rhythmic that went #1. So Jess got a cake, I believe, and it said like happy #1 at da-da-da. And it was like, the team's just going to come together and celebrate the #1. At the very least, we're going to celebrate a #1 on radio. And while we're doing that, we're going to watch the nominations get announced.
Wow.
And when the first one happened, like, I think it was just we're like, holy, like, and then it just kept happening.
Yeah.
And like, there was just a moment where that video is one of my favorite videos ever to exist, because it's so true.
It's very genuine.
It's genuine because we're all like, what? Like, what is happening? And I just start crying because it feels like that was like a big release of relief for me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my God, like we did it. Like at the very least, we're in the game. And people recognize everything that we've done for years. Finally, it felt like that, like weight of like, when you're a manager, you're carrying the team on your back, and it feels like everything's on you to make sure that they're seen.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think people don't realize that. It feels like you're the quarterback of like, okay, you got to like call the plays and hope that they're the right ones, so that the team doesn't look at you like sad and disappointed of like you didn't get them there.
Right.
So, yeah, there's this moment in it where you can see me like just lose it.
Yeah.
And everyone's crying at this point. So we're like, what the hell is going on? And it just keeps happening. And then the big 4 get announced, which are Record of the Year, Album of the Year, Song of the Year, and Best New Artist. And getting 2 in those categories was like, no one could have prepared me for that. And I think that meant, it didn't mean more to me, but it meant a lot to me because there's so many people that qualify in those categories. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter what genre you are. There's like an interesting thing of like the urban categories, because they're not televised, which they should freaking be. It's 2024. Like, when are we going to televise those categories, guys? And seeing her name on Best New Artist and then on Record of the Year, I was like, oh shit. This is incredible, because there's nothing that prepares you for that moment of wondering if you'll ever transcend the niche that you're in, or the box that you're in, or not getting as much resources because you're in R&B,
right?
And you're not making pop music, even though R&B is pop music. Pop is popular.
Yes.
So that happening and rounding out the 7 was like,
you feel truly seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it became like, oh shit, like we haven't slept, because we're going to do whatever we can to campaign. Now that we've got the nominations, it's like,
okay,
we got to go even crazier. And we weren't done with tour at the time.
Wow.
So the nominations had come out, and I believe we still had the UK to do. So we had to go do the 2 London days. And then we went to Brazil to do Afropunk.
Jeez.
And yeah, that video was like really special too. I think just because seeing like all of the people that were there. Shar was on Zoom.
Okay. Yeah.
Because she was in the UK, I think, at the time. And then Dana, our publicist, was on Zoom. Jess was there. D-Mal called in. That was one of the best moments of my life.
Yeah. And the fact that you captured it is amazing. It's a beautiful moment.
Oh my God.
So you're going campaigning after that as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is that?
What does it look like?
What does that look like?
So press.
Yeah.
Press. It looks like doing a panel at the Grammy Museum, like everybody else that gets nominated, doing all of anything you can for visibility during the time period of like voting. So what did we do? We did tons of interviews. Dana set up a ton. We did Afropunk. We took out ads.
Yep. Printed ads, billboard hits, all that.
Yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
It just looks like visibility and hoping that people see it.
Yeah.
You know?
You're reminding everybody, because now the voting is happening.
They're like, oh, who's this person?
Yes.
And then you're trying to prove why you, of the cream of the crop, should be the one that gets the vote.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you're also telling that story back to why. Yeah, exactly. Like,
yeah,
we might not know who she is, but here's the song.
And so a lot of it was like, we need to retell the story.
Yes.
Of like, and the big part of that story was she's been doing it for 15 plus years, and she's nominated for Best New Artist.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, oh, she's been doing it forever. She's not a Best New Artist. I'm like, she's been working forever, because nothing is an overnight success. But in terms of the public consciousness, she is a new artist. And I would say that sometimes when I first started working with Victoria, and she would get offended. And I was like, I'm not saying this to be offensive. I'm saying, like, in terms of public consciousness, you may have dropped 4 projects, but you didn't have a team. You didn't have playlisting. You didn't have all the things that you should have had.
Yeah.
That should have been afforded to you, that you didn't have the luxury of having. And so Jaguar really, to me, was like, this is your first project, because people get to experience it and discover it in all the places that they were discovering other amazing acts.
Yeah.
You know, so to a lot of people, they're like, oh, she was in the industry for whatever. I'm like, this is a beautiful thing, because we're rewarding the fact that she was persistent. And now when you look at Best New Artist this year, you've got Sabrina Carpenter, who went through, like, you're talking theater, actor, multiple projects. Also with an incredible female team, female manager. And now it's happening for her.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, she does deserve to be in that category. Chaperone, signed to a label, doing completely different music, by the way, then finds herself, makes the music she wants to make. The label doesn't see it. They drop her. She's not making money.
Yeah.
But she broke into public consciousness now. Like, this is the year. 100%. So of course she deserves that. Shabu's, like, how many people do we have to talk about? Like, there's a strange thing of thinking Best New Artist means you should be before the age of 22. That's not, Like Billie is incredible, and she is an anomaly because of her age.
Yeah,
like that's not the norm.
That's not the norm,
and
at all.
You know, I think it was.
I think there was a good conversation around that this year. That like this is what Best New Artist means. It was more driven home.
Yeah,
like it doesn't mean that they came out like a year ago. Mm-hmm. It means that this is when they broke into public consciousness in a major way.
Yeah, which takes time.
Yeah,
it takes a lot of time. And that's if you're lucky to break through public consciousness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah.
What is next for you?
What is next for me? Man, I really want to. There's so much. I think there's still so much work to be done for Victoria. Next album, tour, international tour. We haven't gone to so many markets with her. So that's like important for me. St. Harrison is a new artist.
Still Lucy, right?
Yes, yeah. Lucy. It's Caroline domestic, Lucy
of course
international. You know?
Shout out Caroline.
Shout out Caroline, yeah. Saint is another one that's incredible, huge voice. Dropped his project independently through Platoon, actually. And that did well, but he's a superstar as well. So it's the same thing. It's like the same process of wanting to drop another project that is critically acclaimed, still has the standouts, and then put him on the road so he can tour.
Yep.
Personally, for me, more like creative endeavors.
Okay.
Just start learning guitar.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
That's what's up.
There's a TV show that I wrote a script for.
Oh, really?
I want to do that.
Okay.
Yep.
Fire.
Yep. And I want to produce more, like putting albums together, really like spending more time in the creative.
Yeah. It's still what
huge for me. Yeah.
Well, it's still what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
It's like to think that managers are just suits is insane.
No. I mean, my trajectory is like started out as a kid that just loved music to find it, wanted to tell stories. And that was, okay, let me be a songwriter. Can't sing, so I gave that up. Then I started writing. I was an intern at Delta XL, where Carl Cherry was an editor, actually. Fun fact, while I was in college. Yep.
Yeah, I remember him. Okay, you were at the same time.
I was there at the same time, and he left to go to Beats Music, which became Apple Music. And I kept writing because I was in college. I'm like, I might as well do this. Wasn't getting paid for it, but I'm like, I get to do what I want to do, and I get to meet people through this. And like, hopefully I get to network through that. Everything was like network.
Yeah.
So I'm still on the East Coast, and I started managing my friend Dolly, who's a rapper from the Bronx. Funny Toronto story.
Tell me.
Is Jordan Evans and Matthew Burnett tweeted about him.
Oh, wow.
While I was working with him. Yeah, we went to Toronto, and that's how I met them.
Oh, you met
that's
Toronto?
How I met Danny.
Great.
Yeah, we went
in Toronto?
In Toronto.
In Toronto.
We worked together, yeah. Because Jordan was like, I think Dolly's my favorite rapper right now.
Jordan hates everything.
He hates everything.
So
we go up there, and that's how I met them. And then Daniel was just sleeping on the couch.
Yeah.
And then becomes the next thing. And I started writing about him to help out because I was writing for different websites. So I wrote for Earmup, which is on Hype Machine. And I remember covering like early Daniel Caesar. And yeah, I kept doing that. I basically go out to LA because I was doing a meeting with John Lieberberg, who at the time managed Time. This is going to sound so like...
It's okay.
Crazy. So Dolly, his style of rap was like from the Bronx, but his producer loved Clams Casino.
Okay.
It's like Cloud, like sampling different things that are alternative, wanted to sample like Haim. I'm like, oh, that would be cool. Like maybe you guys can do something together. Hit up John Lieberberg. He's like, oh, I'm on tour. The girls aren't working right now, but like, let's stay in touch. I hit this man for months. I'm like, how do we make this happen? He's like, you know what? Have you ever thought about managing at like Rock Nation? You tell a 21-year-old kid that, like, you're like, not kid, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. He said that to you.
He said it to me.
Okay.
And I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, of course, where do I sign up? I'll do it tomorrow. Like, let's go. Like, I'll probably be like, making so many plays if I'm have the Rock Nation title and all that stuff. And anyway, this is like, I'll never forget because it was end of like 2013. He's like, oh, maybe like the holiday party. You can come to like the holiday party. Never invited to the holiday party. Follow up again. He's like, oh, I'm going to be here like March, April. I literally hit up a friend of mine who was a PA on an ABC Studios show. And I'm like, can I stay on your couch? I'm going to have like a meeting with this guy. Go out, stay on his couch, go to the meeting. And John is not paying any attention to me in this meeting.
Oh, wow.
He's eating his lunch. He's like kind of listening. And mid-bite, he's like, all right, I'm going to see if Tata's here. Goes over to the next room. He's there. Brings him in.
Okay.
He's asking me questions like, oh, what do you do? I'm like explaining like, oh, I write for, different sites or whatever, but I also manage this robber and blah, blah, blah. Takes no interest in that. He's like, oh, come in here. Go in the next room in his office. And he starts playing songs. He's like, what do you think about this?
That time?
Yeah. And he just keeps asking me on different songs. I'm like, ooh, I really like this. Oh, I don't like this. Or like, and just explaining why. And he like gives me his card. And he's like, I think I have something. There's somebody I want you to meet. Like, how long are you in town? I'm like, how long do I need to be in town? There's like, what?
I'm
like,
here for a minute.
Being cryptic, not really saying anything. It's like, somebody I want you to meet. There's this artist. Her name is Dorothy. She's like the first rock act that's on Rock Nation. And, maybe there's something we could do together because we don't want her to feel like an industry plan. We want her to feel cool. Like, can you like write about her and like send her to different people that, that write at other places? PR.
Yes.
So I've never done this before, but I'm like, okay. A day goes by, I don't hear anything from him. I'd given him my number, don't hear anything. I pull out the card, I'm like, okay, text, hey. He's like, oh yeah, like meet up at Soho House. Never gonna understand. My parents are Haitian. I don't know anything about the culture of Hollywood or anything. Like the most I know about it is because my brother told me about Entourage and I started watching that. And then I started watching How to Make It in America. I was like, oh, this is how.
Going back to watch those shows? You should.
Yeah?
Yeah. Go back and watch Entourage and just watch the season.
I will.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Checks out.
Yeah. Okay. I'll rewatch. Yeah.
But yeah, you go to Soho.
I'm just going and they're like, you should take pictures. Fish out of water for sure. Didn't know what to wear. I'm like overdressed, walk in. Like, I'll never forget, George Robertson was managing her at the time. And he's like in what's probably like modern day, like Fear of God, like kind of like tattered, like vintage. Yeah. Like, oh, like, here I am thinking you got to wear like a collar, like all the things.
Yes.
No, you don't.
Oh, that's crazy.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
No, you don't. And I'm learning this in real time just because I'm experiencing it. So we do the meeting. I basically become Dorothy's publicist. I'm making like $400 a month. It's nothing. And I move here because on my last day in town, I'm looking for apartments. Last day in town, I go to this nondescript place, only like the photo of the outside building. It's a condo. And I meet with this woman. She's like, oh, like I'm looking for a roommate for my daughter. Daughter's not there. I have a conversation with her. Why do you want to move here? Explain everything. I'm like, oh, I'm moving out here because I went to this school. Basically interviewing to live here. And she calls me as I'm walking back out to my car. And she's like, can you come back in? My daughter actually is here. They were like checking me out.
Oh.
And my rent was $900 a month. So my hustle was like, I got to find enough clients, PR clients, so I can cover the rent a month so I can stay out in LA. And it was everything included. That does not exist in today's world. That was God. That was definitely God. So anyway, I move out here. I'm doing PR. At the same time, I hit up Scott Benner, Entourage. The reason why I hit him up is because he had tweeted that he was looking for music from New York, hip hop. I send Dolly. We start talking back and forth. He's like, oh, I really like his stuff. Let me know if you're ever in LA. I remember that. I hit him up. He's like, oh, like come by the house. I bring my friend Chris because I'm like, I'm not going to any man's house. Like, Go with him. He's totally chill. He shows us an early cut of Ballers. Nothing's happening with it yet. I'm like, okay, there's no music, no nothing. Nothing happens. I'm just sharing music, no job, no nothing. Fast forward, he hits me up and he's like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, nothing. What should I be doing? He's like, oh, I'm going to go to the Warner a lot. Do you want to come? And like, if you have any music, you can see how it works. Cause I've been asking him, like, can I just learn? Like, anything, tag along. So I go with him to the Warner a lot. He's working on the Entourage movie and I'm sending him songs and he's like, see how this, and he starts to like kind of teach me. He's like, see how it clashes with the dialogue. Like, and I'm watching him do his job. Okay. Fully like not paid, just learning. Go to the premiere with him and his girlfriend. Again, fish out of water. I'm like, what am I doing here? And who knows how long later he calls me again. He's like, hey, I have something for you. Coordinator for Ballers, the first 2 seasons. So I'm working with him and I'm doing that. At the same time, I'm doing PR. So that's like the hustle. It's like, okay, now I'm getting into music supervision. I worked with Scott for like maybe 2-3 years. And then I went out on my own. And I started researching like the heads of studios and like trying to get gigs. I would get something on Paramount, that I would get like just random odd jobs. And it would feel like I would just get a job that would pay for the next month and then figure out what the next hustle was. And that was my life for years.
Wow.
Years. And I remember like I would go and I would buy a rotisserie chicken from Rouse and that would be like $6-7 and I would make sure that would last for like a week. Because I was like, I cannot afford to eat. You know what I mean? And my mom would call me and she'd be like, do you need anything? I'm like, I refuse. I love my mom and I feel like she's sacrificed so much for me. But anytime she'd be like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I would never. I'm like, living the dream.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, of course. Panic. But I'm like, I refuse. Like, I have to find a way to make it. But I think part of that was instilled in me because of her. Like, it was like, well, you've never not been okay. It might be really stressful, but you've never not been okay. Like, you've never been homeless, thankfully.
Right.
So, yeah, I kept on that path. I stopped doing PRs. I was like, I don't want to do this. But I think that the jobs that you do and, you don't want to do are just as important as the jobs that you love doing, because at least you learned something. Like,
yeah, exactly. I mean, needed to understand it.
It. In hindsight, like, I'm glad I did that, because as a manager, you have to understand every other aspect of the job. Like, I understand our publicist. I understand like the film sync side of things. And I understand A&R. Like, I have been doing that for the screen. I didn't even realize what that was. And then being around different creators and understanding, like, even watching like Victoria and Dima, like arranging things, like, oh, like that's how, like, and studying the albums that I was obsessed with, of like the Kanye's and the John Mayer, like Beyonce, like seeing how they've put albums together in real time. I feel like I was just learning and being a sponge. And I started working with Kier. So I wanted to learn about music clearances, and he was working on Insecure. And that was another like gig of like, let me just learn from somebody that I respect.
Yeah.
And great guy. And from there, he recommended a movie called The After Party on Netflix that Kyle was starring in, that full circle was written by Ian Edelman, who did How to Make It in America.
Oh,
so that was one of my last music supervision roles, because I consulted on that, because he wanted someone that understood hip hop and R&B and like really to be authentic, because he grew up on it. But he's like, I need somebody that gets it. And I did that. And a little bit after that, Tunji called me and he was like, oh, I'm starting a label. Do you want to come over here and be an A&R?
Are you still at this point check to check, trying to figure it out?
Yes.
Yo, that's crazy.
Yes.
And when I met you, you were a music supervisor.
I was check to check.
And I thought, oh, well, she's in the industry.
No.
Wow.
No, I think that's a common misconception.
Yeah.
Like, even now, it's like, and I think that's another thing for managers too, is like, people look at managers and they're like, so, there's like a strange villainizing as well of managers. Yeah. But I'm like, it takes a certain level of bravery and audacity.
Oh, for sure.
Sacrifice to be like, I'm going to put my life on hold to see this dream through and adopt this dream as one of my own and have the whole team's dream be wrapped up in this. And like, you're responsible for all the plays. No one knows how anxiety inducing and fear inducing that is.
Yep.
And like, and that's if it works. Someone sent me a stat the other day of like, how many managers like make over $100,000, and it's like the top 1%.
Really?
Yes.
What?
And I'm like, wait, what? That doesn't make sense. But then you start to think about,
well, yeah. I mean,
how many artists are actually successful enough to make money? And if you
go on Chartmetric, there's like, last time I checked, there's 9 million artists on Chartmetric. So you imagine that 50% of those have managers, or let's say 30%.
Yeah. And you could, I mean, realistically, like even thinking about how long I was with Vic before people cared was like, it was last year. So 5 years.
Wow. Yeah.
Of like, and if you have an artist on a label and they're standing behind crazy recoupment,
yep.
What are you earning off of? Nothing. Because if they don't blow, there's no brand deal. There's no endorsement check. There's no touring money.
Sure.
So there's one thing I really wish people would understand is like, I just have such a love and affinity for managers that really are in from the beginning, because you have to, like, you kind of have to be a little crazy.
Yeah.
Because like, you don't know, like, you're really like, you're a gambling person. You're betting on the talent of the artist, but you're also betting on yourself.
Yep.
And everyone in the team of like, nah, this team is special, so it will make sense one day.
Yep.
And the thing that's really crazy is like, if I look at like managers of artists that were on labels and they're standing behind recoupment and they're still doing it, even the biggest record, like that doesn't equate. Like, you might still be broke and figuring out how to make ends meet, but you have the biggest song, like a Billboard #1.
Yeah. For those who don't understand, what's the standing behind recoupment?
So, okay, let's say artist goes and signs to a label and they get, let's say something like minimal, like 150, 200 grand.
Yeah.
That's just a sign. You start spending money to shoot a video, do the photos, hire the publicist, all the members of the team. You start rolling out the music and you pay for ads and marketing. And if you're lucky and want to test something at radio, that costs money. Then you're looking at $500,000. Might go to $1 million, might go past that. Even if a song is successful, you have to chip away at your debt before you see money.
Mm-hmm.
And the manager is probably making 15 to 20% of the artist share.
Correct.
Of that. So now let's talk about artists that are in normal deals, right? They don't own their masters. Maybe they are making 12 to 16% of 100% of the record because the label's taking the rest. And so the manager is making 15 to 20% of that 12 to 16% if you're on a normal, like,
yeah,
this is not like, you have to be a little crazy.
So even thinking about that, the reality is for an artist, for a manager to make $100,000 to that 1%, that means that the artist needs to make, they got to be making.
You got to be.
Even if you're at 10%, they got to make $1 million.
Yes. So that's why I'm like, putting in perspective, like the work, especially now because labels don't develop artists.
No.
But guess whose job that is?
It's the manager's job.
You got to figure it out somehow. So you got to learn every job that you don't know. Yeah. And that was my job it still is my job. If I don't know something, I'm calling somebody that's doing it well and asking a question, because I can't afford to not know how to do it, because the label's not going to do it.
No.
Even if they've got all the infrastructure worldwide and the funds, not going to do it.
Nope.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. but you made it happen.
Yeah.
Can I tell you a story?
Yes.
Real quick. That I don't know if you know this or the level of detail in this, but I just discovered this the other day. Did you know that in an indirect way, but not so indirect way, you were responsible for Calvin Harris and Jesse working together?
Why?
So you are the reason.
I remember talking to 360, but I can't remember if I brought up Jesse. I did. Jesse.
To Natalie. Wow. So you told her, you need to check out this girl, Jessie. Figures has come out at this point.
Wow.
And then Natalie heard it.
Which Natalie?
Sorry, not Natalie. Natasha? Is it Natasha?
I don't know.
Oh my God.
Well, here's the thing. I'll tell you who I spoke to because maybe he passed along. It was Charlie Tadman.
Charlie Tadman?
Charlie Tadman was running Calvin's publishing company. I'm wondering, I'm like,
so really,
who was it?
No, it's
which Natasha?
I want to sit here and down. Byron told me this.
Okay.
You told him shook. So Byron, he told me this the other day. When I had them on the pod, when I had Jesse and Byron on the pod, I won.
This is an episode?
Yes.
Oh my God, I gotta watch this.
And I'm like, what? I didn't know that.
I was showing everyone Jesse at this time.
Okay, so you showed someone at 360. Mm-hmm. That person fell in love and then showed Paul McRae, apparently. And then, I don't know if you remember this, but Jesse then, when it was the whole bidding war, everything was happening, we did a little Soho House tour with Zach. And there was an LA show that happened. And she begged Mark Gillespie to come to the show. And she relented and ended up coming to the show. Stood in the back, which I do remember. He stood in the back, and I remember we got introduced to each other. Mm-hmm. And he's like, she's phenomenal. He went home, told Calvin. Calvin reached out to Jesse, said, hey, there's a lot of people talking. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Mark Gillespie is not coming to the show if you're not talking about Jesse to 360. So you connected those dots. So
wow,
that is a testament to how incredible your ear is, your taste. You've done so many amazing things in this business. And it's amazing to watch how far you come. And I know you're going to continue to kill it.
Thank you.
You tell in so many ways that you are meant for this. And I love seeing you win, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're one of the good ones in this business for sure. So I just want to say,
wow, I never knew that.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact.
Why?
So you, and even more importantly, and I talked about this as well, Mark Gillespie is actually the person that helped Byron and myself put together the deal to shop around.
What?
Yes. And he put these 10 or 14 points on a piece of paper written, and we went to his office. She's like, yeah, here you go. This is what you do. I'm like, we looked at
what?
Yeah, it checks out.
Also, shout out to Mark Gillespie because that's amazing.
Well, those who know he's a G. Wow. If I can get him on this podcast, that should do that. Yeah, I'll definitely have that conversation with him. So, yeah, and he put that deal together, and then we went to Universal, and Universal agreed to damn near pretty much everything on there.
Oh my God.
So none of this is happening if you're not involved. So I appreciate that.
Of course.
Thank you so much for spending the last few hours here having a conversation.
Thank you for having me on.
No, this is amazing.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Bro.
Oh my God, guys, you don't know. Look up to this one. This is what I wanted to say before.
Okay.
And then we can wrap. Outside Lands.
Yeah.
The first time that you, Byron, Jesse, Daniel did Outside Lands, you're on the same stage.
Yeah.
Armand and I drove up to see you guys perform. I was so inspired. I was like, oh my God, one day. The crowds were insane.
Yeah.
For you both, honestly. And it's crazy to be sitting here with you in this capacity because back then it was just like, I just love the artists.
Yeah.
I loved him and I loved all the people behind the scenes doing it and just was so inspired. So I couldn't have done I couldn't even been me without watching you guys do it and carve that path out. You know?
Appreciate that. The ones who win in this business stay so committed to being a fan.
Yeah. I mean, what the hell are we doing this for otherwise?
Yeah. There's no other. Yeah, exactly.
Like, the industry is just a byproduct of, it's like, we deal with it because we love music.
Yeah.
Those are the people.
That's exactly how we're in the business. Yeah, for sure. I think most people are like that. Some people get jaded along the way, but the ones I think it's the music. This is why we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.